Welcome to Earth Our Habitat, Geography, Class 6, Motions of the Earth. When you see the sun rising in the east every morning and setting in the west every evening, what do you feel? We imagine that the sun moves across the sky throughout the day. In reality, however, the sun is stationary and it is the earth that is moving. The earth, like all other planets in the solar system, has two kinds of motion. It spins on its axis and it goes around the sun along a fixed path called orbit. We will discuss this chapter under the following headings: rotation, revolution, leap year, elliptical orbit, summer solstice, winter solstice, equinox, and at last some fun activity. Here are some learning rules. We will be discussing about rotation and revolution, summer solstice, winter solstice, and the equinox. Look at the picture carefully. We have already learned that the earth axis is an imaginary line joining the North Pole and the South Pole. The axis is tilted at an angle of 66.5 degrees with the plane of the Earth's orbit. This tilt is called the inclination of Earth axis. The inclination of Earth axis causes varying lengths of days and night. If the Earth axis were vertical to the plane of the orbit, and a place would have received the sun rays in the same way all around the year, thus the day and night would have been of equal length throughout the year all over the world. So the earth axis is always inclined in the same direction. And same angle. It is because of the inclination of the earth axis. The days and nights are not of the same length. In summer, days are longer than nights, while in winter, nights are longer than days. So as you know that the earth has two types of motions, namely rotation and revolution. Rotation is the movement of the earth on its axis. The earth axis and the rotation of earth on the axis. The movement of the earth round the sun. Look at this figure. The movement of the earth round the sun called revolution, and rotation around its axis is known as rotation. So rotation is the movement of the earth on its axis. And the movement of the earth around the sun in fixed path or orbit is called revolution. So as we discussed, the axis of the earth, which is an imaginary line, makes an angle of 66.5 degrees with its orbital plane. The plane formed by the orbit is known as the orbital plane. The earth receives light from the sun. Look at this image. Due to this spherical shape of the earth, only half of it gets light from the sun at a time. The portion facing the sun experiences day, while the other half away from the sun experiences night. The circle that divides the day from night on the globe is called the circle of illumination. This is the circle of illumination. The circle does not coincide with the axis, as you see in the figure. The earth takes about 24 hours to complete one rotation around its axis. The period of rotation is known as the Earth day. This daily motion, so this is the daily motion of the Earth. So discussed about the rotation, the Earth day, axis. Now let us discuss about the orbit. The imaginary line on which the Earth moves around the Sun is called its orbit. We have already discussed about the orbital plane. The plane passing through the Earth along its orbit is called the orbital plane. Tilt of axis. Earth axis tilted at an angle of 66.5 degree on its orbital plane. On the other hand, the Earth axis tilted at 23.5 degree on the line which is perpendicular to its orbital plane. Revolution. The movement of Earth in its orbit around the Sun is called revolution. So this is the orbital plane. Watch it carefully. So orbital plane is the plane passing through the Earth along its orbit is called its orbital plane. You can see the orbit of this Earth. The Earth is going around the Sun. It's elliptical orbit. What would happen if the Earth did not rotate? The portion of the Earth facing the Sun would always experience day, thus bringing continuous warmth to the region. The other half would remain in darkness. And be freezing cold all the times. Life would not have been possible in such extreme conditions. So, the portion of the Earth facing the Sun would always experience day, thus bringing continuous warmth to the region. The other half would remain in darkness and be freezing cold all the time. Life would not have been possible in such extreme conditions. Now we discuss about the circle of illumination. So what it is? We have already seen the imaginary line which divides the parts of the earth with day and night is called the circle of illumination. The circle of illumination is a right angle to the orbital plane. The circle of illumination at an angle of 23.5 degrees to the earth axis. Because of the angle between the circle of illumination and the axis, both the hemisphere of the earth do not get the same amount of light on most of the days. This causes different seasons at different times of the year. The orbit of the earth is elliptical in shape. Due to this elliptical shape of its orbit, the distance between the sun and the earth keeps on changing throughout the year. Sometimes the earth is too close to the sun, and other times it is too far from the sun. What it is called? Look at the figure. The earth is farthest from the sun at the aphelion. These two types of phases are aphelion and perihelion. So when it is farthest from the sun, it is known as aphelion. And when it is near to the sun, it is known as perihelion. The earth is nearest from the sun at perihelion on January 3 or 4. Whereas the sun is farthest from the sun at aphelion on July 3 or 4. Now let us discuss about the second motion of the earth around the sun in its orbit. It's called revolution. It takes 365 and 1 by 4 days, that is 1 year, to revolve around the sun. We consider a year as consisting of 365 days and ignore 6 hours of the sake of convenience. 6 hours saved every year added to make 1 day is 24 hours. Over a span of 4 years. And this surplus day is added to the month of February. Thus, every 4th year, February is of 29 days instead of 28 days. And such a year with 366 days is called a leap year. So the extra 6 hours are added after every 4 years to add an additional day to the year. Thus every 4th year is a leap year which has 366 days. So while the rotation is responsible for day and night on the earth, its revolution is responsible for changes in seasons. The revolution and tilt of the earth axis affect the change in seasons. You have read in your earlier class that the portion of the earth facing the sunlight experiences day. On the contrary, the portion which is always away from the sun experiences night. So you know now, the earth moves around the sun in an elliptical path. And the distance between the earth and the sun is not the same every time. This is the elliptical path of the earth. So effects of revolution. Revolution of the earth has the following effects: variation in length of days and nights, distribution of heat over the earth, occurrence of season. So variation in the length of days and night. We have seen earlier the days and nights are not always of the same length. In summer the days are longer than night, while in winters the nights are longer than days. Why is this so? The variation in the length of the day and night occurs because the earth revolves around the sun. With its axis. At the equator, look at carefully. The variation is minimum and the days and nights are equal in length throughout the year. The equator. Away from the equator, the days are longer. And the nights are longer in winter. At the poles, the variation is maximum. This is the case of winter solstice. And this is summer solstice. There is continuous daylight for 6 months during summer and continuous darkness for 6 months during winter. Now, to understand this movement of the earth around the sun and its effect, on days and night and the seasons, let us watch a small video. now you know about our planet Earth, that it is the only planet known so far of life. Now let us see how the cycle of seasons takes place on the planet of Earth. You will see that on 21st June, northern hemisphere is tilted towards the poles. The rays of the sun fall directly on the Tropic of Cancer. As a result, these areas receive more heat. The areas near the poles receive less heat as the rays of the sun are slanting. The North Pole is inclined toward the sun. And the places beyond the Arctic Circle experiences continues day and night. Daylight for about 6 months. Since a large portion of the northern hemisphere is getting light from the sun, it is summer in the region north of the equator. The longest day and the shortest night at these places occur on 21st June. At this time in the southern hemisphere, all these conditions are reversed. It is winter season there. The nights are longer than the days. Watch it carefully. Inclination of the earth. This position of the earth is called the summer solstice. And on 22nd December, the Tropic of Capricorn receives direct rays because of the inclination. As the south pole tilts toward, as the sun rays fall vertically at the Tropic of Capricorn, 23.5 degrees south, a larger portion of the southern hemisphere gets light. Therefore, it is summer in the southern hemisphere. With longer days and shorter nights. The reverse happen in the northern hemisphere. This position of the earth is called winter solstice. So dear students, do you know that Christmas is celebrated in Australia in the summer season? Because of these reasons. And 21st March and 23rd September, direct rays of the sun fall on the equator. At this position, neither the poles is tilted toward the sun so At this position, neither of the poles is tilted toward the sun. So the whole earth experiences equal day and nights on 21st March and 23rd September. This is called as equinox. So what it is called as? Equinox. This is spring equinox and autumn equinox. On 23rd September, it is autumn season in the northern hemisphere and spring season in the southern hemisphere. The opposite is the case on 21st March. When it is spring in the northern hemisphere and autumn in the southern hemisphere. Thus, you find that there are days and nights and changes in the season because of the rotation and revolution of the earth, respectively. These are the 4 seasons. So a year is usually divided into summer, winter, spring and autumn season. And the season changes due to the change in the position of the earth around the sun. So you have read about the summer solstice fall on 21st June while the winter solstice fall on 22nd December. On 21st June, the North Pole tilts toward the sun and the Tropic of Cancer receives direct sunlight. As a result, it is longest day and shortest night in the northern hemisphere. On the contrary, it is the shortest day and longest night in the southern hemisphere. It is summer season in the northern hemisphere and winter in the southern hemisphere. Between 21st March 23rd September, the North Pole receives sunlight continuously for about 6 months. So it is 6 months day at the North Pole. On the other hand, the Southern Pole experiences 6 months night during this period. You already learned about the equinox. When the length of the day and night is equal in all parts of the earth, such a day is called equinox. This happens on 21st March and 23rd September. On 21st March, the south pole of the earth towards the sun. As a result, this is spring season in the northern hemisphere and autumn in the southern hemisphere. And 23rd September, the north pole is towards the sun. As a result, this is spring season in the southern hemisphere and autumn in the northern hemisphere. So, when the length of the day and night is equal in all parts of the earth, such a day is called equinox. This happens on 21st March and 23rd September. And 21st March, the south pole of the earth is towards the sun. As a result, this is spring season in the northern hemisphere, autumn in the southern hemisphere. And 23rd September, the north pole is towards the sun. As a result, this is spring season in the southern hemisphere and autumn in the northern hemisphere. So I hope you must have understood the chapter, Motions of the Earth. At last, things to do. Why is Christmas celebrated in summer in the countries in the southern hemisphere, while in winters by us? Why does Arunachal Pradesh receive early rays of the sun in India? Hope you must have enjoyed the video. We'll meet in the next video.